the next morning. The Holy of Holies is the innermost sanctuary of the temple. It is the actual place, according to Jewish tradition, where my boss lives. The truth is that the chief priests have long since abandoned their devotion to their God and lived for wealth and power. My boss rarely considers it to be a place where he is made to feel at home. It is a bare, empty space separated from the court of priests by a vast curtain. "Is this curtain here to protect the people from seeing our boss?" Math asked. "Or is it here to protect our boss from seeing the abominable corruption of the priests?" "It is there to keep me at a safe distance so that I do not touch their lives more deeply than they can bear," replied the voice whose song is the entire created universe. "But its days are numbered." This was to be a great council. With my boss and the director, there were 3 other archangels, Gabriel, Raphael, and Michael. Michael was anxious about Lucifer being so close in his temporary headquarters in the outer court of the temple. "He may be close in the human measure of distance," our boss declared, "but he is separated from us by the prayers of centuries of faithful Jews. In here, were you to bellow at your very loudest, the lost one would not hear so much as a whisper." Each of us reported what we'd learned. Michael has been assessing the strength and strategic positioning of the opposition. Gabriel's task has been to stir up the prayers of all the faithful people who are awaiting the fulfillment of our boss's plan. Raphael, to my surprise, has been listening to the opposition, quietly and patiently gathering intelligence about their intentions. It is neither possible nor wise to record for you here the detail of our conference. Angelic minds and spiritual intercourse exist on so many different levels that human words cannot begin to express. Needless to say, our minds were focused on our boss's great plan for humanity, and every step of the way we considered the counterplans of the opposition. More than I cannot say, but for one essential detail, at every turn of the road, my boss has left any final decision to his son. And that is not in deference to his divine parentage, but because of the very opposite reason. Jesus is an ultimate command because he is human. In all of our earlier campaigns involving members of the human species, planning and decision-making has been the province of angels. Humans are too narrow in their understanding and too weak in their wills to be able to direct the purposes of heaven. Now, however, our boss is doing something new. He's entrusting the power of eternity into the fragile hands and brief lives of men and women. Jesus, the Son of Mary, is the first fruit of this new harvest. For us angels, our instruction is the same, as it has been throughout. We must watch. We must listen. We must keep one another informed. But we must not intervene, no matter how dreadful a turn events might take. The destiny of humanity has been placed into the hands of humanity. So as I sit and write by Jesus' bedside, I cannot but ponder the shift that in my responsibility. I am not here to protect him or advise him or defend him from the opposition. My task is only to support him and encourage him. Monday afternoon. The travellers slept late and had a leisurely breakfast before a brief visit to Jerusalem to pray in the temple. The outer courtyard had been restored to its former status as a sheep market and international bank. Jesus' arrival prompted a flurry of activity on behalf of the temple guard, who followed closely behind him wherever he went. Their eagerness was unnecessary, as Jesus had no intention of repeating the chaos of yesterday. He has come to teach. He sat in a shaded corner with his 12 followers and talked with them about the future. He spoke of a new era in his Father's relations with humanity, of a time where he will work in the lives of ordinary people, a time where everyone will be called upon to account for their own life. As always, he taught them using stories Stories of bridesmaids whose lamps run out of oil before the wedding begins. Stories of parties which the invited guest failed to join. Stories of shepherds dividing and sorting their flocks. His audience grew rapidly, from 12 to 20 to 50 and hundreds. People came from across the Roman world and from Africa, delighted in such simple teaching. Jesus was not detailing ever more laws to burden their lives, as is the way of the teachers of the Pharisees. He spoke of a God who loves his people and is preparing them for a new and better life. The high priest and his political allies watched anxiously, constrained by Jesus' popularity. They are used to the festival of Passover being their time, a time where the people need and value the services of their priests. But Jesus has muscled in on that moment, and now the priests hate him all the more. I've watched them with fascination while Jesus moved effortlessly from one story to another. They'd made their decision to have Jesus killed before he even set foot in Jerusalem. Lucifer had whispered into their jealous minds over many months. Now, Jesus is seated inside their own headquarters, and their hatred is stronger than ever. But they can do nothing because the crowds are on Jesus' side. To say even a harsh word to him might cause a riot. Jesus will not stay for long. Tonight there is to be a dinner in his honour at Bethany. Monday evening. As I expected, Jesus left Jerusalem after only a few hours, and returned to Lazarus' home in Bethany. Jesus and his friends are spread around the various homes of Lazarus' family. Tonight's dinner is at the home of Lazarus' elder sister, Martha, whose husband Simon was cured of leprosy by Jesus some while ago. That was the start of a long and fruitful friendship, which reached a dramatic climax when Lazarus became seriously ill and died. As soon as Jesus heard about the illness, he asked me to ensure that when his friend died, his spirit was kept near its old body. When Jesus arrived in Bethany 4 days later after Lazarus' funeral, he asked for the tomb to be opened. "Come out, Lazarus," he shouted, and Lazarus did, alive and well. Tonight's dinner is a celebration and thanksgiving for Lazarus' renewed life. Everyone is getting ready, not least Jesus, who's been supplied with some uncharacteristically expensive clothes for the event by Lazarus' younger sister, Mary. Lazarus' sister Mary is a fascinating woman. I can begin to understand how the other Mary, Jesus' mother, has such a deep understanding of her son's intentions. But how Lazarus' sister can have grasped so firmly what even Peter and John fail to understand is a mystery. She was late for tonight's dinner. When she had finally arrived at her sister's house, she was carrying a beautifully carved alabaster jar full of ointment. Ointment which, from the reaction of the diners, was of quite exceptional value and no doubt cost. She squeezed her way onto the cushion between Jesus and her brother, and when people's attention passed to other things, she began to apply the lotion to Jesus' head and feet. As soon as the guests realised what she was up to, all conversation stopped. When the room reached complete silence, Mary proceeded to wipe the excess ointment from Jesus' feet using her hair. I've mentioned before that I found myself to be intimately linked with the son's human emotions. He responded to Mary's attentions with pure delight. He basked in the profound expression of her love and in her acceptance of what he was resolved to do this week. Though nothing was said between them, he knew that she understood, and in this outrageous act, even by Mary's standards, she was offering her full support. Jesus was in a state of bliss such as he had not experienced since sleeping at his mother's breast. A dart of anxiety flashed across my mind, making me look into their minds for any hint of sexual motivation for this sensation. There was none, only love and faith and bright hope. This can have only lasted for a few moments. Then Judas erupted with indignation. Hot with embarrassment, he railed at Jesus for allowing such a criminal waste. Most people in the room agreed with his suggestion that the money could have been better spent on supporting people in poverty, not washing feet. Jesus had to drag himself back into present realities of doubt and cynicism. There will always be poor people, he informed Judas, but you'll not always have me. Mary's done a beautiful thing. This ointment was intended for my burial, and tonight she's prepared me for it. The moment passed. Martha, distracted her guests with the offer of more food, but Jesus did not eat, but talked intimately with Lazarus and Mary, sharing his fears for the coming day. Before long, Jesus thanked his hosts and departed, walking the short distance to Lazarus's home with only me for company. Mary's actions had worked like an anaesthetic on his troubled mind. For the second night in succession, he is sleeping peacefully.